Welcome to the Maine Outdoor Enthusiast podcast. I guess we're back for another week.
Yep.
I'm Paul, and I'm sitting here with Mark.
Yep.
On Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day,
Happy
Paul.
Father's Day.
Yeah.
Just get
Thank
back.
you.
Just get back from a fishing trip.
Yeah. Our annual fly fishing trip,
Yeah.
middle of June. Always.
It was good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good, Paul.
Caught a fair number of fish. Fishing was a little bit meh.
Yeah. Yeah. We
We've
caught
had
fish
better.
every time we went out, but it not fast.
It
And
wasn't hot. Nothing big.
No, nothing real big.
Nothing huge. But one thing that while we were up there, you know, we're in the Northern Maine woods fishing. And we discussed a fair amount how fortunate we are
To have that available to us.
to have
yeah.
access to
Yeah.
such large tracts of land.
Yeah.
And that's something, and I've mentioned this before, that's something I always took for granted growing up.
Right.
I thought everyone went out on the back 40
Yeah.
and caught native brook trout.
Yeah.
I mean, where my elementary school was, just down the road from the house
Right.
where I grew up. I used to walk right down the back bank and catch fish down at the beaver dam.
Yeah.
Behind the school.
I grew up fishing Libby Brook.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in Fort Fairfield, and caught a lot of trout out of that little brook.
And I thought that was normal.
Yeah,
You know, that everyone does that. And I guess it's normal for Northern Maine.
for people in the upper half of the state of Maine, for sure. I think a lot of kids grew up doing the same thing. There was always a brook available with trout in it,
Yep.
native trout.
And it wasn't until I was a little older and it kind of moved it away, went to training in different areas, that I, realized that, man, Maine's
Right.
a unique spot.
Yeah,
It's a unique spot to recreation. It's a unique spot to fish and hunt.
yeah,
We've got, the deer population, not what it used to be.
yeah. Not now.
But fishing for native brook trout is a very, very unique thing in Maine.
Yeah,
So I think there was a video last year where I'd mentioned, you talk about native brook trout. Maine in itself has like twice the number of bodies of water with native brook trout
than the rest of the nation.
than the rest of the states on the eastern coast that are known
Okay.
for having native brook trout. I think there's 16 states.
Yeah,
So Maine in
Yeah.
itself has more bodies of water of native brook trout, twice the amount of bodies of water with native brook trout than all the other states combined.
right.
It's a pretty interesting
Yeah,
thing. So yeah, there's two major reasons, why this occurs in Maine. Is you've got large tracts of forest land,
mm-hmm.
and then no invasive species of fish
Yeah,
that other people have introduced,
right.
which would be hard to introduce to a lot of these bodies of water
Yeah,
because they're so remote. But those are like the two contributing factors on why Maine has so many.
yeah. They can be easily out competed by fish like white perch
Well,
and smallmouth bass, and that even yellow perch is a major competitor. And we do have a lot of yellow perch in waters we have in Northern Maine.
And they've kind of learned to live in harmony
Yeah,
because most of the places
Yeah.
we fish,
yeah.
yellow perch was a common
And
thing.
one of the major things that brook trout need is cool, clean, well oxygenated water, and
Yeah.
and we being in a northern climate that we have that.
Yeah.
So
And so we're seeing the whole issue with white perch at our home lake. That ought to be nice and loud.
gotta have my tea.
So we're seeing an issue with invasive species of fish right now at our home lake, the Fish River chain lakes.
Right.
Whitefish have been introduced.
Yeah, just within the last 5 years, they've taken up residence.
And they've multiplied like crazy.
And that's
They're
how they outcompete brook trout.
Yep.
They just overwhelm the waterway.
And what is it? How many eggs can a
I
female
think,
whitefish
I
lay?
think a 1 pound female white perch can produce 300,000 eggs where a 1 pound female brook trout, and I'm not sure, but I think it's like 300 eggs per pound for a female brook trout. So you can see that they, like I say, they can just outcompete, overwhelm, and they're aggressive fish. So
Yeah. That's crazy. That's a lot of potential offspring.
Yeah. So
we're up in the North Maine woods, and so that's another thing that Maine is very unique in having is North Maine woods is basically a conglomerate of private landowners, right? And the North Maine woods was basically
an industrial forest is what
it is. But basically you had individual landowners at one point in time that were all kind of managing access to their land kind of differently. Right. And then it basically was North Maine woods was created, I guess, as an organized way to manage all those lands together.
Right.
Basically made it an efficient manner to manage those. Because I can remember even as a kid seeing some other gates at different spots in the woods. And you don't see that now. You're basically one checkpoint going into the North Maine woods.
Right.
And you've got access to 3.5 million acres of woods.
Yeah.
Basically at your beck and call. It's like your own kingdom.
You do pay a road fee, a daily road fee, and a camping fee.
Yeah.
So there is a fee attached to it, but once you pay the fees, like you say, you can do pretty much what you want. If you want to fish, hunt, any type of recreation that...
And I guess I'm not up on my history of the North Maine woods, but I guess part of the reason for its development was when the logging industry transitioned from river drives to using logging roads.
Right.
There was kind of a, I don't want to say disagreement, but it's kind of hard to who's managing what roads, how they're managing them, maintaining them, who's doing the work.
Right.
It's, you need some coordinated effort to have the system of roads taken care of, bridges, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, right. Who's going to pay for that?
So
and somebody else is taking advantage while you put the work and the money into a certain road or bridges. Bridges are expensive, and there's, I'd love to know how many bridges there are. There must be a lot of bridges, hundreds of bridges out there in the North Maine woods, and those are expensive to build and maintain.
Yeah.
So, as the roads are.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a never-ending...
Right.
Especially, in Maine, we have freeze-thaw year in and year out.
Yeah.
You see that on our just main highways.
Yeah.
Freaking potholes central up here.
Yeah, so I guess that's where the fees come in for us. We use the roads and stuff, and that the fees that we pay, I think, go in towards that. Towards maintaining those roads and bridges and
campsites. They maintain the campsites quite well.
Yeah.
So we're lucky. So 3.5 million acres is roughly like 5,500 square miles of continuous land to hunt and fish. And so we just got back from a camping trip, our annual fishing trip. A lot of small ponds.
Yeah, that's generally what we fish. Yep. We fly fish, and we fish the small ponds, and generally off the beaten path. We hike into ponds we want to fish. Remote ponds, yeah. So native brookies, they're isolated. Although one pond that we fished, which is a remote pond, those brookies aren't native to that pond. No,
it was stocked in the 50s.
No, they were originally that pond held no. I'm going to say no fish, no brook trout for sure until the 1950s, and in around 1957 they stocked it, and it just took off from there.
Yeah,
they did well in this pond.
Excellent fishery.
Excellent fishery. Yeah.
Catch some beautiful trout. Although and these ponds are cyclical. We've talked about that because fishing that pond this past week, it didn't produce great like it used to.
And we know too, Paul, you can fish one pond one day, and it seems like you have the same conditions the next day, but yet the fish bite the next day. We ran into that on a pond that we fished 2 days. The first day we didn't do well.
No.
And the second day we did.
Yeah.
So
we We hooked a lot of fish. We couldn't land a fish to save our souls there.
Yeah,
for
we
one.
lost. We pinch our barbs, and we use small flies, and that's you're going to lose fish.
You lost a nice one. Well, that one broke you off.
Yeah. They get down in the bottom in the weeds and stuff, and I pulled a little too hard and snapped the fly off.
So, yeah, a lot of good fishing that's available at our fingertips. And, you know, even now I struggle. People want to do fishing trips like Labrador, Quebec, and stuff like that. And I think there's so many ponds that I've never... There's so much on my back door that I've never even begun to scratch the surface. I'd started making a list of all the ponds that I'd fished, and then I had like a wish list of ponds I wanted to fish.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah.
You could fish a different spot every day.
Yeah.
Probably your entire life and never fish the same spot twice.
Yeah. There's a lot we haven't hit. Like
it's incredible.
You take Baxter State Park is known for a lot of nice hike-in ponds and stuff, and we've never even fished Baxter State Park.
Yeah.
So
well, and the problem is you know, you have a pond that's producing or your lucky spot that's producing.
Right.
And you only get so much time to fish.
You're going to go back.
You don't.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'd like to go try this place, but I don't want to sacrifice a night of, especially if you've got good conditions for it.
Yeah.
And like I said, you've got the time available.
Yeah.
You kind of want to maximize your efforts, best bang for your buck.
Right.
And yeah, you tend to kind of keep going to the same spot until you have a fish kill. Like one of the ponds we fished notoriously, which we've had some nights that were just phenomenal.
Yeah, but we've had some really good days on that pond. I don't know how many years we've actually fished that pond, Paul, but it's been. You were a young man when
I was probably 13, I think, or 12.
And you're 41 now, so that's almost 30 years of history on that pond.
And the very first trout, I shouldn't say the first trout I caught on it. The first big trout that I caught was on that pond.
Yeah.
And I think I'd landed one, I was like
14 inches, and you released that.
And it was a one fish limit.
It was a one fish limit at the time.
And I put it back, said, I can catch one bigger.
Yeah.
And I caught one 18.
You got, I think it was around 18 inches, the fish you kept.
Yeah, and I was just on a dry fly.
On a dry fly.
Yeah, that was the biggest trout at that point in my life on a dry fly.
Yeah.
Until we took a trip to Labrador.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of big fish there, but long ways to go for...
And a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Which, ironically enough, I can catch more fish in Maine.
Yeah.
Than like on that trip, we caught big fish, but it wasn't like we caught
a
boatload of fish.
Right.
You know, 5-pound brook trout.
Yeah.
Are fun to catch, but it's not like we were catching 100 fish a day or something.
Right.
We've had nights on some of those ponds where, well, we had was it 3 nights that we fished up there?
This year?
No, one time we went up, was it 3 nights we fished, and we were in like triple digits as far as
I think it was, trout. You're right. It was over 100 fish, and it was, that was a really good trip. That was a good year.
Yeah.
But you talk about fish kills, they also have winter kills. These ponds are oftentimes shallow and stuff, and when the snow gets deep on them in the wintertime, it cuts off the oxygen, and they can have fish kills from lack of oxygen in those ponds during the wintertime.
Yep.
Yeah.
So before we get into some of the other recreating we do in the North Maine woods, hunting and all that sorts, there's another unique component to Maine that's basically non-existent, at least in the lower 48 states that I'm aware of, is the presence of native Arctic char.
Yeah.
Which should also be known as the blueback.
Right.
Trout. And you've caught some.
I've caught one on a pond up in the DeBully area years ago, probably 9 or 10 inches, going deep, fishing deep. So
beautiful fish, especially in the fall time.
Yeah. Yeah, mine wasn't that colorful or whatever. It was in the summertime. So,
and there's some ponds there's one pond they reclaimed.
Yeah.
Right? And which had native populations of Arctic char.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, they took the Arctic char out.
They took them out.
Reclaimed the pond.
Yeah, they killed all the fish in the pond. They put the char and the brook trout, Paul, not just the Arctic char. They took the native brook trout out of this pond. They put them in a hatchery up in Frenchville.
Okay.
And I believe they reproduced in this hatchery too. And then after they had reclaimed this pond, killed the pond, they reintroduced these native fish to that pond.
They reproduced in the hatchery.
I believe they did. Yeah,
well, that's pretty.
Yeah, Mountain Springs Hatchery up in Frenchville, I believe, was the people that the hatchery that held the fish for them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So we also, growing up, and again, deer hunted the North Maine woods.
Yeah.
Again, that was another thing that, you get kind of spoiled because if I like big woods to hunt,
right,
and if I hunt anywhere else, I have no interest in hunting.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I went to school in Southern Maine.
Yeah.
And I had there are a lot of deer, but I had zero interest.
Yeah.
In hunting those areas because I was so used to being able to.
You're not going to step out on somebody's back lawn up there
and not see a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just couldn't understand. I'm like, why do people want to hunt like this?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, it's not readily available to everybody.
Right.
To have access to lands like that, especially with the rise of hunting leases.
Right.
I've heard guys mentioning like Ohio, which is now known for hunting leases everywhere. And I know guys that own, or I should say guys that have hunting leases around here in Ohio.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was something I always took for granted. And the deer hunting used to be awesome.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore.
Combination of a lot of things, the cutting, the lack of deer yards now, the coyote, and we've always had severe winters, so that's not something new, but the
there's
coyotes,
just too many things working against them.
Too many straws on the camel's back.
It's multifaceted,
Yeah.
They had the habitat to make it through the winters.
Yeah.
And no predation.
Yeah.
Now we combine harsh winters,
right?
No habitat, and lots of predation.
Right.
It's like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
You're really hamstringing them.
Yeah. It's taking its toll for sure. There's not many deer up in there.
And even the moose. We talk about we did not see a moose.
Nope. Three nights in the woods. We'll say 4 days. Yeah, we were there 4 days. And
4 days.
Traveled a lot of miles at night, even coming back from our ponds in the evening.
We fish until 9:30.
Yeah,
quarter
we
to
come
10
back
sometimes
in the dark.
at night, and then have to hike out.
Yeah.
And drive back to where we're camping.
As far as I know, I wrote it in my log, Paul. The only wildlife we saw were a few rabbits. That was it.
Yeah.
In 4 days.
I was thinking about that on the drive out, on how it seemed very lonely.
Yeah.
And
we didn't see a lot of people, Paul.
No.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, Steve, who spent the same days up there on the Pinkham Road, and he mentioned that they didn't see many people.
No.
And we didn't see many people.
The girl at the gate, talking to her though, she said that they've been busy.
Yeah.
I know numbers. I know a couple of the people that work up there, and I know they've had record numbers.
Have they? I do know.
Past few years
coming out, we saw people going in.
Yeah.
When we come out yesterday, we saw there was people at the gate there, 2 or 3 trucks at the gate, and I met trucks going in on the Pinkham Road and stuff. So,
but yeah, it seems pretty desolate. Like we used to see, moose everywhere.
But you can lose a lot of people in 3.5 million acres. So
you sure can.
Nobody's crowded.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
So moose population's gone.
Yeah.
That's not like it used to be.
Back in the day, multiple moose sightings were a guarantee.
Well, I don't think we could go a day bird hunting in the fall in October
without seeing quality moose, big bulls and stuff.
Without seeing moose.
Yeah.
Now we don't see them at all. Although one did walk to the campsite.
Yeah, we saw their tracks, but we never laid eyes on a moose.
No. And another thing that's popped up seems more so now than in the past is the people that you run into up there, wicked friendly, and social.
Yeah.
Everything kind of turned into social hour for most every morning. We'd run into someone, end up talking for 2 hours. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh shoot, we got to get going fishing. We're running out of time. So yeah, everyone super friendly.
Well, and it's has to, you're in a laid back atmosphere. They're feeling good. They're doing what they want to do. So they're
similar interests.
They can chat it up a little more when they're feeling good, and they're in their happy spot.
And the grouse hunting up there has always been phenomenal.
Yeah,
we've never had a shortage.
It's getting more pressure now, Paul. Than
word's gotten out.
Yeah, word is getting out. I think when the moose deal started coming around, that people went up there moose hunting and realized how many birds they were running into, and it became a thing for them to come up bird hunting from downstate or out of state.
We run into a lot of people from downstate.
Yeah,
when we're up there bird hunting, and I mean it's good. I mean, heck, I mean the state's done some pretty good grouse studies.
Yeah.
And have shown that hunting basically has zero impact.
Yeah, I think it's
on the grouse population.
There again, don't quote me on the numbers, but I have read the studies, and I think that hunters only account for 15% of the mortality on grouse. And
you said 15%?
15%, I believe.
I have the study. I've read it.
Yeah, I have read it
years
ago, and I'm going on memory here, and I think avian predation was a major.
That was probably the biggest.
Yeah.
And that's one thing this past fall I've noticed more than any fall, any time that I can think of actually, is the number of hawks I would see along the road.
Yeah, as
it was
driving,
like, it was every stretch of road I went down, I felt like there'd be a hawk flying down in front of me.
Yeah.
And actually driving out Saturday morning, there was an owl in the road.
Yeah.
And I got some footage of it. He flew up into a tree.
Yeah.
And 10 o'clock in the morning. Or 9:30, whatever it was. But yeah, so I think, there's a lot of, and of course those populations all kind of ebb and flow with each other.
They can go from one year to the next, and I'm a little worried about this year because
cold,
like
wet
today,
spring.
we have rain and a high temperature of 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of that this spring, and this nesting season in late May and early June, we had a week straight of rain and cold weather, and that's not conducive to a good bird population in the fall.
No, but wait, they'll have a double clutch.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Well, I don't want to turn that stone over, but as far as
you mean it can't happen?
Well, I'm just saying the science of it says it can't. So it can if the nest or gets wiped out completely, they will renest if it's early enough, but they're not gonna raise one brood and
I guess that's what I meant by double clutch.
That doesn't happen.
No,
I
guess some people will say, oh, it was a good spring, they had two, and that's according to the biologist.
Pardon me?
According to the biologist.
And for the biologist and personal observation, I've seen chicks as they go along, and boy, even in July, Paul, they're still small.
They are.
They're the ones that hatch in late May, early June, they're still small in July. It takes all summer to raise them.
Even fall time bird hunting, we've come into
some small
broods that basically were still together.
Yeah,
because you come into a flock of birds.
Yeah,
a lot of small birds that you can take out of those.
Then somebody would argue that's the second clutch. Yeah. So, but no, I don't believe that. No. I think the science bears us out on that. So,
yeah. But grouse hunting is always good. We always do well. It can be kind of regional.
Yeah,
you get spots that are.
You're right. Even there, Paul,
that are good in sections of the woods, and
you can go 50 or 75 miles away, and it can be totally different.
Because you'll talk to someone, they'll be like, "Oh man, I haven't seen a bird."
Yeah.
And you talk to someone else, and they're like, "I saw
every day."
Yeah, I saw like 30 yesterday.
Yeah.
And just different locations,
little regions. Yeah. You're right.
So North Maine is Maine's pretty unique. Having access to that much land. We're pretty fortunate because it could change.
It can change. You don't ever want to think that, and there's been some movement in different areas. There's been people billionaires of large companies. I think Subway is one of them that bought a large.
Was that the Pel and Pel?
Yeah, they had 11 townships up there, and I don't know if they all were bought by the owner of Subway or some of them, but that's a big chunk of land. 11 townships up there, and so the things can change.
Again, and
if
money.
Somebody wants to shut you out. They have every right to do it. It's their land.
And when it comes down to money.
Yeah,
money talks.
Money
if there's
talks.
another way someone can make money out of land outside of harvesting it, managing it for timber, things could change.
Things can change for sure. You don't want to really just assume that because it was this way last year and the last 30 years that it's going to remain, because that's privately owned and it's not public land. So that certainly access can change.
You're at the mercy of the landowner.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, beyond the North Maine woods, Paul, even where we have our camp up in Sinclair on the Fish River chain of lakes, we have access there to hundreds of thousands of acres that's privately owned.
It's Irving.
Irving owns most of it. There are probably some other players up there. I'm not... but Irving owns the lion's share of it, and of course up there's no gate fees. We have access to.
I will say, from talking to other people that say like presidents of like ATV clubs and stuff like that, seems like Irving is really good to work with.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good PR program, I think, Irving. And that was another thing which they don't have in the North Maine woods, but they do have up on private land up where we have the camp is ATV trails, snowmobile trails and ATV trails. They're very good about.
I mean, I know one instance where ATV or UTV, whatever those clubs are called, the president, he'll call up Irving, and be like, "We want to put a trail going through," and he's like, literally. He thought was one of these instances. He calls up Irving, and he thought, they're just coming to look, and they showed up with a bulldozer
and did it for him.
And he's like, "Well, I think the trails can be," and they're like, "Oh no, don't worry about it. We'll end up using this road anyway, because we want to cut into the section." He says they showed up with a low boy and.
We can say things about, like I say, Irving, but they do have. They're very conscientious of having a good relation with the public.
Yeah, they've always had good luck.
Yeah,
getting anything done.
Yeah.
With them, they seemed really willing to work with at least those ATV clubs and stuff like that. Which I'm not an ATVer. I don't.
No, I do. Those ATV trails transition into snowmobile trails during the winter. And I don't do a lot of snowmobiling, but I do use them once in a while. So I'm thankful for that. So,
but even the fishing here, around the towns, native brook trout everywhere.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's on everyone's doorstep.
The Aroostook River right in Fort Fairfield has some fantastic.
Yeah, I grew up fishing.
Yeah, it has some fantastic. And that river, Paul, when I was, you wouldn't even walk near the river when I was young.
No.
The water, a lot of processing plants and sewage treatment
being
plants
dumped into
going in, raw sewage going into that river. But now it's cleaned up a lot. And
I've got a lot of good experiences fishing that river. I can remember the beautiful caddisfly hatches on that river.
Yeah,
and I can remember I think I had just turned 16. And I don't think most 16-year-old boys do this, but when I was turned 16, my biggest excitement was I could now take the car and go fish the river by myself without having to be dropped off.
Yeah.
And I can remember one trip I was fishing, and there was some nice trout rising like just at the end of my casting ability.
Yeah.
And I finally it's funny because I had waders. And the deeper I'd get into the water, the more it took off my back cast.
Right.
So I really wasn't gaining on the fish any. And I can remember watching 2 or 3 trout just sipping the water in the current.
Yeah.
And I finally got my fly out just above them and got a nice drift. And they came up and looked at it and turned away. And it was an elk hair caddis. All I had for a caddisfly imitation was an elk hair caddis. And I got them to come up again, just look at it and turn away.
Yeah.
So I could see the caddisflies coming off the water were like a rust color. They were darker than the elk hair caddis. I went home that night, tied a few up that were darker.
Right. Better imitations of what
literally the next day, I get that cast out there and
caught the fish.
And there's a picture, I think it's like 16 inches, 17 inches.
Yeah.
But the river had some good.
Yeah.
Still does. People have
still
really nice
I haven't
fish.
fished it since
I'm going to try to get down this summer.
Yeah, since we get the camp from your grandmother, I spend most of my time up there, so I haven't fished that river.
I mean, it's 5 minutes away. There's no reason for me not. But yeah, that was a good.
Yeah.
The problem with that river now is, and you don't see this up in the woods, is it's all agricultural land along the river.
Yeah.
So anytime you get any sort of significant rainfall, the river's muddy, high, and the fishing's bad for 2 or 3 days afterwards. Yeah. And that was growing up. That would always be we'd be like, well, can't go. It's a nice day. Can't go fishing today. We got a heavy downpour, thunderstorm yesterday.
It's blowing out or whatever. Yeah.
That was the only, you don't see that up in those small ponds.
No.
The drainage is so good. I should say. Well, the ground acts like a sponge.
Every pond, Paul, you think about it, every pond that we fished is a headwater pond. There's no major tributary. They're basically spring fed.
Yeah.
If there is an inlet, it's a small inlet. So you're right. They're not going to get affected by a heavy rain.
Well, plus
those headwater ponds are.
The vegetation around them is left pretty much natural. They can't harvest right to the edge.
Right.
So you get no runoff into those ponds. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how much rain you get.
No.
It's crystal clear and relatively the same level.
Yeah.
It doesn't fluctuate rapidly.
It doesn't. They're headwater ponds. So.
But yeah, so that was, I guess on our fishing trip, that was something that came at least to my mind. You know, we get this opportunity to recreate in such a vast amount of woods. And it's almost impossible to get lost in it, even though it's 3.5 million acres.
Yeah,
there are roads everywhere.
Yeah.
They can build a road in the snap of a finger.
And they do.
They do.
There's road. You're right. There are roads everywhere.
I guess I've never understood that either, because it seems to me that it would be easier to use an old road.
An existing road, maybe travel a little further.
And Lord, they will. Like, I think of that, there's a new road going off. The
right
one
before
we
the
drove
campsite.
in on.
Yeah. Right.
And they just right out through the woods.
Yeah. Beautiful road.
Yeah, it's like
beautiful road.
Like, wow. That didn't take long.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they can make roads
and
quick
they had when we came out, they had brought in a feller buncher.
Yeah.
And so it was probably on that road today. Not today, but tomorrow it'll be in there harvesting.
And
today's Sunday, so.
And they just cut in there 2 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, how I guess the efficiency wise, they've got it better understood than I do.
They do.
But
they do.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd probably try to
They're highly mobile, Paul. They don't worry about moving equipment.
No, they're good at at what they do.
They don't. It's not a big deal for them to move distances.
No.
So obviously,
and they can cut
because they do it.
They can cut some trees fast.
And they can cut a lot of trees.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So our fishing trip, it was fun. Had a good trip. Weather turned out to be fine. The biggest thing with me is, and you'd said the same thing, they were calling for showers, but it wasn't going to be a washout, and there was not going to be any wind.
Yeah, the showers
the entire time.
Spotty showers can be good because you get overcast, and with the main thing is no wind, and
it was calm.
And it was we had and Steve mentioned that he said they had 2 beautiful days, and they were up there the same days, and he said the weather was fantastic, and it really was.
If you looked at the weather forecast on an app or something, it showed like 70% chance of rain, 90% chance of rain. And you're like, man, this is going to be terrible. But as you dig in a little further, it's like, well, winds were light and variable, like 5 miles an hour
the
all
entire
day
time.
long.
The entire time.
And there was just like maybe an hour or two here and there that was going to be a shower. And it ended up, and you talk about overcast. I can remember fishing some ponds periodically over life where it's sunny out, and the minute a cloud comes over,
fish start.
All of a sudden,
that's exactly
fish start rising.
Yeah.
And you start catching fish, and the sun comes back out, and they all go under.
Yeah.
Till evening time.
But like I say, the main thing is that we didn't have any wind, which is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
You don't want to be out there in 20, 30 mile an hour winds. That sucks all the fun out of the fly fishing trip.
My God, it does.
Yeah.
Sitting in a canoe, spinning around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to drive a fly through.
Yeah. So no complaints. Although we did pack up in heavy rain yesterday morning.
It makes it a little.
So my equipment's still all sopping wet in the garage. As soon as the sun breaks loose here, I got to get it out on the lawn and dry it out.
Yeah.
So
it's raining today. It doesn't want to stop.
Nope. And like I say, cold, 50 degrees when I.
Yeah. I got a window yesterday when I got home from the fishing trip. Lawn's growing like crazy. Got to mow it twice a week.
Yeah.
And I had like a 2-hour window where I get to mow the lawn, and I'm mowing it. My hands are freezing. And I'm like, it's towards the end of June. Why am I still freezing my butt off?
Yeah. We're still running heaters in the house. But
I had the heat on this morning.
My mini split's still running.
Yeah.
Ours
was too. So it was a good trip. Wanted to kind of, if anyone's not familiar with the North Maine woods, kind of wanted to share that, that it's a great, unique opportunity. And if you do utilize it and go up there, appreciate it. Don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Because it's not a common thing.
No.
And the access that we have to native brook trout fishing isn't a common thing.
No.
It's kind of, Maine's kind of the last frontier in that on the eastern seaboard as far as native brook trout fishing.
Yeah.
And I hate to see that go away.
Yeah, and we were getting back to that too, Paul, and we were talking about reclaiming ponds, and it's not always like a bigger fish like white perch or smallmouth bass or muskie that have an effect. Those ponds were reclaimed because they had smelt in them.
Yeah,
smelt made a big difference in those ponds and stuff, and they not only made a difference with the Arctic char, but they make a big difference with whitefish.
Yeah.
In ponds that held whitefish, in lakes that held whitefish years ago, if there's a smelt population, that usually means the eventual end of the white fish fishing there.
Yeah.
So
that just about sum it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fun trip. Kind of wanted to share all that stuff. We'll probably have a video coming out this week on our fishing trip.
Yeah.
How that went. But good times.
How long until you retire?
No, I'll never retire.
I was going to say we could do it a lot more when you retire. But once a year is not long enough to.
No, and we're gonna go back up.
Yeah,
I want to go back up next week, but you're of.
We'll see.
Humming and hawing about it.
We'll see.
The weather's going to be good.
Yeah.
And I'm halfway there on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I might just go in for the evening.
Yeah.
And fish one of the ponds.
Yeah.
So, I'm only...
I may be able to pull it off.
I'm only an hour away when I close up shop Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I could be there by 6:30.
Yeah.
Fishing just in time.
And it doesn't get dark till 9:30.
It's the longest day of the year, the 21st.
Yeah.
So I can get there for prime time and get 3 hours in.
And you'll have a day to recover Wednesday. Wednesday's your day off. So it's not like you have to get up and go to work early Wednesday. You get a recovery day.
That's right.
So
I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, we had a fun time. And if you're a father, happy Father's Day.
Yes. Yeah.
Hope
happy
everyone's
Father's
enjoying
Day.
their families. And I guess until next time, get outside.
It's good for the soul.
See ya.